Welcome, gentle listener. I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the important factions, forces, and units of the Warhammer 40k universe, the grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. And today, I thought it high time we had a relaxed jaunt through the many successor chapters of the illustrious Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines. Last time I introduced how successor chapters were founded, so let us now explore some of the rich narrative that brings the different heraldry of these forces to life, making them so much more than just a random colour scheme for your Marines. Now I will note that I have left out the Space Wolves Successor chapters only, as I require more research on these chapters before committing them to an entry. And so, as usual, for the very basics, let us lean on existing wisdom. To quote, Successor chapters. Most Space Marine chapters can trace their genetic lineage to one of the 9 loyal Primarchs that fought for the Emperor during the Horus Heresy. There is no singular reason as to why a certain Primarch's gene seed is selected for a new chapter during a founding. Assessment of purity, availability of resource, the reasons for the founding being declared in the first place, and even political maneuvering has had an impact on which gene seed is used and how often. Many successor chapters have close bonds to their parent chapters, as the Covenant of Fire have with the Salamanders. This is not always the case, however. Chapters have their own histories and traditions, often developed over centuries or longer, which their battle brothers are deeply proud of. Thus, some feel little reason to hold their parent in high regard than others. Some successors will never encounter their parent chapter, with both waging wars at opposite ends of the galaxy. Such a situation easily breeds indifference. Some chapters even shun their parent chapters, for all manner of reasons. Imperial Fists Successors. The Crimson Fists. The Crimson Fists spent arduous decades on the brink of extinction, crippled by the assault on their home planet of Rimsworld by Orkwar Snagrod. The chapter held on to their planet through sheer tenacity and tactical excellence. Only with the Ultima founding was their strength restored, and they could look to the future with some degree of hope. They now fight to overthrow Xenos despots and tyrants. The Black Templars. The Black Templars are valiant warrior knights and pious champions of the Emperor. They are deeply unusual amongst the Adeptus Astartes for venerating the Emperor as a literal god. The chapter's fanatical devotion finds its focus in constant campaigning. A fleet-based chapter, they divide their forces into crusades led by marshals and storm across the galaxy, immolating and annihilating everything that stands in their path. Hammers of Dawn. Founded in the 41st millennium, the Hammers of Dawn have already proven themselves during hundreds of campaigns, including the bitterly fought Achilles Crusade against the Word-Bearers and the Nightfire Wars against the Tau. The Hammers of Dawn are a stringent codex chapter and uphold the precepts of Guilliman stricture with exacting precision. The Iron Knights. Every inch of the Iron Knights' homeworld of Bricantia is sheathed in the metal or hewn stone of manufactorums and bastions. The population spends its existence under the Overseer's lash, producing vast quantities of weapons and ammunition for the Iron Knights. The chapter's warriors share the harsh demeanour of the people, knowing that hardship and sacrifice are necessary if they are to win victories. The Subjugator. Near as zealous as the Black Templars, the Subjugators are infamous for their extreme and unsubtle methods of warfare. There have been numerous documented occasions when the Subjugators have liberated a conquered imperial world at the cost of its entire population. Of course, though the Subjugators' methods may be costly, they are also spectacularly effective. Sons of the Phoenix. Faithful to the Emperor and ritualistic in their battle cant, the Sons of the Phoenix pride themselves on plunging into the flames of battle. Their crusades are so impressive in spectacle They pave the way for the Imperial creed to spread, and hence they are followed by a great many holy men and women. The chapter fleet was scattered by the opening of the Great Rift, and now the Sons of the Phoenix crusade to gather their forces back as one. Reclaimers of Dawn. Lore to follow. Raven Guard Successors. The Revilers. One of the Raven Guard's few second founding successors, the ranks of the Revilers were drawn heavily from the survivors of the Istvan V disaster. The chapter's warriors have proven worthy inheritors of Corax's legacy, possessing exceptional skills in stealth and ambush. The Revilers maintain an ongoing shadow war with the traitor forces of the Alpha Legion, and have thwarted many of their insidious schemes. The Rift Stalkers. A relatively new chapter, the Rift Stalkers are composed entirely of Primaris Space Marines. They are fleet-based, for it is their task to patrol the Kikatix Maledictum, as many foul abominations emerge out of that great rent in reality. In addition to slaying the Emperor's enemies, they diligently seek new methods of reconnecting with the hundreds of thousands of worlds cut off in the galactic north. The Raptors. Believed to have been founded from initiates training on Deliverance at the time of the Istvan V disaster, the Raptors are an ancient and well-respected chapter. They prize skilled marksmanship and independent thought, and view the Codex Astartes as a highly effective set of guidelines rather than absolute doctrine. The Raptors are known for fielding substantial 10th Company assets, supported by waves of combat skimmers. The Iron Ravens. The Iron Ravens are specialists in sudden, shock-drop assaults. Their 10th Company element may spend months building up local intelligence and preparing the ground so that, when the main body of the Iron Ravens' force comes screaming down into battle, they strike with such decisive and destructive precision that the war is won with a single unstoppable sword blow. The chapter have taken to calling this the Blade of Corax. Knights of the Raven. Little is known about the Knights of the Raven. When they fight alongside other Imperial forces, they communicate only when necessary and talk to each other in cryptic battle tongue. The fortress monastery of the chapter is on the feudal world of Corax. To the inhabitants of this bleak place, the Knights of the Raven are mythological figures who descend from the heavens to spirit away their greatest young warriors. The Blackguard. This chapter believes in the timely application of overwhelming firepower to defeat their foes. Masters of the careful ambush, the Blackguard deploy massed batteries of thunderfire cannons and vindicators to annihilate their enemies in an instant. Overkill or half measures are not concepts that the chapter's warriors understand, and they are known to leave vast cratered ruins in the wake of their many victories. The Necropolis Hawks. The Necropolis Hawks are trained extensively in close-quarters combat, and many are veterans of fierce city fights. They additionally bear their battlefield role insignia upon their backpacks, so their comrades can identify them even in the choking smoke and dust of urban war. Although a newer chapter, the Necropolis Hawks have earned a reputation for pragmatic brutality and relentless, if carefully measured, aggression. The Death Spectres. Stationed beyond the bounds of the Imperium, the Death Spectres keep constant vigil. Even with the Great Rift yawning wide, their thankless duty remains, ensuring that the mysterious deathless inhabitants of the Ghoul Stars never again ascend to threaten the galaxy. They come from the 13th Founding, which is known as the Dark Founding, for less is known of its creation than any other Space Marine founding. White Scar Successors. The Marauders. The Marauders are isolationists in their tendencies. They will fight readily enough alongside other Imperial forces, but remain aloof and exchange only what information they must to prosecute their campaigns. Recognized for their particular aptitude as marksmen, the Marauders often set ambushes for their enemies and hammer them with massed firepower before sweeping down to finish off the ragged and terrified survivors. The Dark Hunters. The Dark Hunters were founded during the tenebrous days of the Cruciad. That first campaign as a chapter saw harrowing fighting amongst the demon engines of Warpsmith Hilgar and the mutated warlord titan Repellus Maximal during the Battle of Bloodsteel has left a deep-rooted mistrust of the machine within their psyche. Even today, the chapter's relations with the tech priests of Mars are strained at best. The Solar Hawks. The Solar Hawks are from an unknown founding, but date back to at least Millennium 35. Aggressive and noble, they embody all that is best in the sons of the Khan, and honour their primogenitor by either painting a pauldron or gauntlet white. As their name suggests, they field an especially large number of airborne assets, regularly deploying whole wings of Storm Talons, Storm Ravens and other gunships into battle. The Stormlords. As second founding successors of the White Scars, the Stormlords can trace their history back to a time when Yagatai hunted across the stars. They have maintained a strong rivalry with their parent chapter, frequently competing for glory, and have been known to go to reckless lengths in order to emerge victorious. The Stormlords are also particularly well known for the ferocity with which they hunt orc wars. The Rampagers. The Rampagers are a second founding successor of the White Scars, known for their practice of facial scarring to denote rank. At the celebratory feasts that follow these rituals, the blood of those marked for elevation is mixed with drinks. The Rampagers are in the habit of claiming feral worlds as fresh recruiting grounds in the wake of conquest, providing the planet's populace test negative for any forms of spiritual or physical corruption. The Destroyers. Established during the second founding, the Destroyers have a troubled history. Though they have won many great victories, questions remain regarding the stability of their gene seed. These concerns have grown despite the self-sacrificing heroics of the chapter, displayed in the wake of the demon rampage throughout the Rorgus subsector. For their part, the Destroyers are concerned only with the next mission. The Storm Reapers. There are few more battle-hungry than the Storm Reapers, the first Primaris chapter founded from Yagatai Khan's gene seed. The Khan would be proud of his ferocious sons. They are wise and noble, but fight with a passion he would recognize as his own. They claimed the feral world of Yagan for their home, with its savage natives, and were commended for their spearheading of the Absolutist Crusade. Mantis Warriors. Thanks to their indiscretion during the Badab War, the Mantis Warriors have spent decades on a penitent crusade. Due to their historic crimes, the chapter received no Grey Shield reinforcements when its torchbearer fleet reached it, leaving the Mantis Warriors terribly understrength and still on their near-ruinous crusade. Nevertheless, they have utilized the Primaris technology to as good an effect as they can. Iron Hand's Successors. The Iron Lords. Iron Lords are a chapter known for their stern demeanor and lauded xenophobia. For long years now, it has been the duty of the Iron Lords to watch over the Grendel stars, encircling the vile Bargizi and preventing their destructive potential from being absorbed by High Fleet Kraken. Knowing the consequences of this would be dire for the Imperium, the Iron Lords have suffered greatly in upholding their oath. The Brazen Claws. Unyielding and remorseless, the Brazen Claws are noted for their stoicism and their grim determination to succeed. Since their creation during the second founding, they have amassed a string of glories and triumphs. Arriving too late to fight on Cadia itself, they instead bled the foe around Acadian Gate. Riding out the cataclysmic opening of the Great Rift, they lent their might to the defense of Gudrun, Lapis 7, and other worlds. Salamander Successors. Covenant of Fire. The Covenant of Fire crave knowledge of the Imperium they fight for, seeking out lore wherever they can find it, hoping that this information can help them bring light to darkness. Conversely, they purge any sign of heretical material they find, knowing that its knowledge is a false light that leads only to ruin. The chapter eagerly embraced the Promethean cult imbibing and applying the wisdom of their gene sire swiftly. Black Vipers. The Salamanders accidentally learnt of the Black Vipers many years after they learned of their other Ultima founding successors. Sir Kugasi, the chaplain sent to the chapter by the Salamanders, disappeared without trace. The Black Vipers appeared to claim no world for their own, and spurned contact with allies on the rare occasions where it is seen at war. Wherever the chapter has been identified, agents of Belisarius Call have never been far behind. The Dragon Spears. A fleet-based chapter, the Dragon Spears have won renown fighting alongside the Space Wolves against the Orcs of the Gennarion Reef, and have become expert Orc hunters. Being constantly on the move, it took many years for the Salamanders to make contact with them, in which time the Dragon Spears developed a very strong culture of self-sacrifice and endo-cannibalism to ensure their lost brothers never fall from memory. The Dark Krakens. The Dark Kraken's oceanic and night-bathed homeworld of Nactis only boasts one land mass capable of supporting a fortress monastery. Nactis's vast seas are replete with bioluminescent megafauna and shoal predators, which the native population hunt for sport and nourishment. Echoing this, in battle, the Dark Krakens seek out the largest foes, whether that be in terms of physical size or sheer numbers. Blood Angels Successors. The Angels in Carmine. Few Space Marine chapters are as active as the Angels in Carmine. They are forever on campaign, and thus their ranks are rarely at full strength, an issue compounded by the fact that their death company is always worryingly large. What they often lack in numbers, the Angels in Carmine make up for in fervour, winning approbation from planetary governors and other chapter masters alike. The Carmine Blades. The chapter originally known as the Swords of Haldroth was not recognized as a Blood Angel successor until late Millennium 41. Renamed the Carmine Blades, they only grudgingly accepted the Blood Angels' traditions. Their newly formed order of sanguinary priests struggles to curb the worst excesses of the chapter's warrior culture. Despite their barbaric practices, the Carmine Blades have proven resilient and resourceful. The Angels Vermilion. Singular of the Blood Angel successors, the Angels Vermilion shun all contact with their brother chapters, choosing to bear their curse in solitude and isolation. Their battle record is shrouded in secrecy, though whenever they appear in Imperial records, their achievements are nothing short of exemplary. Still, Commander Dante refuses all appeals to forge closer links with this mysterious successor chapter. The Angels Sanguine. The history of the Angels Sanguine is long and glorious. They have been pivotal in many victories against the horrors emerging from the Eye of Terror. But what drives their battle brothers to hide their faces, never removing their helms around other Imperial forces? And why has their chapter seen such a spike in the size of its Liberius, which has grown to almost twice the size of that fielded by any other Blood Angel successor? The Lamenters. The Lamenters have had a tumultuous, often fraught history. They have twice been brought to the very brink of destruction, the first during the Badab War, and later in battle against the overwhelming horror of the Tyranids. Each time they have endured, despite inherent instabilities in the chapter's gene seed. The chapter master claims that, with every travail they overcome, the Lamenters have grown stronger. The Blood Drinkers. Rather than deny the bloodlust that echoes through their souls, the Blood Drinkers embrace it, harnessing the red thirst in combat and practicing blood rituals both on and off the battlefield. This acceptance of their nature seems to have given the Blood Drinkers a unique level of control over the floor and a reduction in incidents of the Black Rage. It remains to be seen if this achievement comes without a greater cost. Knights of the Chalice. The Knights of the Chalice are a purely Primaris chapter, first deployed during the opening battles of the Indomitus Crusade. They are renowned for their aggressive orbital strikes, fielding large numbers of Inceptor squads who drop from on high to scour beachheads clear of the foe. Coupled with destabilizing strikes by Reaver squads, the chapter plunges the enemy into confusion, allowing for swift planetary conquest. Flesh Eaters. The Flesh Eaters were almost fatally undone by the instability of their gene seed. By the time Baal came under siege, their numbers had fallen dramatically. Rumours have circulated for millennia of them having an unnatural hunger for blood and flesh, which the chapter has always ignored. With hundreds of Primaris reinforcements, they have received a thread of hope for survival. The Blood Scythes. An Ultima founding chapter, the Blood Scythes' first campaigns have been in the Red Scar, having been united with their brother chapters after Reboot Gilliman brought the Primaris Space Marines to Baal. They have swiftly embraced the Blood Angels' traditions and have rapidly earned a name for themselves as warriors of honor, upholding Sanguinius' codes with the zeal of the newly converted. The Atlantean Spears. The Atlantean Spears ignored Dante's call for aid. The chapter's large librarius received the message, but took no action. For millennia, the chapter have fought to pacify the enclave of Alkina and the sanctuary of Constantia in the Segmentum Tempestus, relying on the gift of foresight present in an unusual number of their librarians to respond to the innumerable xenos and heretical threats that terrorize the vast region. The Cruor Blades. A loyal member of the Sanguinary Brotherhood, the Cruor Blades have been overwhelmed with guilt since their failure to reach Baal before it came under siege. Now on a self-imposed crusade of impenitence, their fleet sweeps the Red Scar to purge of it of the Tyranids and plunge into the hell of the Imperium Nihilus. They are determined to restore the light of the Imperium and to spread word of Dante's appointment as regent. The Blood Dragons. The Blood Dragon's name is one feared rather than celebrated by many Imperial worlds. The silhouettes of their many gunships are not a sign of the Emperor's deliverance, but of imminent doom. For the Blood Dragons care little for the citizens of the Imperium. Instead, they desire nothing less than the total extermination of the Emperor's foes, believing that he will save the souls of the innocent and destroy those of the guilty. The Sable Knights. The Eben painted upon much of the Sabine Knights' armour represents their acknowledgement that the flaw resides in them all. Determined to make the most of their time before the Black Rage consumes them, the chapter is fleet-based, racing from war to war. In battle, their warriors favour armoured spearheads and fleets of transports, so as best to engage the enemy as quickly and furiously as possible. The Angels Penitent. The Angels Resplendent were once as renowned for their skills in painting and sculpting as they were for their skills in battle. After a series of mysterious events where the chaplains took control and formed the Council of Thorns, they became the Angels Penitent, replacing art and poetry with self-flagellation and denial. They punish any artistic expression with execution, and their death company has grown exponentially. Dark Angels Successor Chapters. Angels of Redemption. None are more dedicated to the hunt for the fallen than the Angels of Redemption. No chapter has forsaken their assigned task to pursue the Unforgiven's hidden agenda more often than they. Calls for inquisitorial censure have been forestalled by the opening of the Great Rift, with disrupted communication keeping reports of further misdeeds from reaching Terra, allowing the chapter's secret quest to continue. Angels of Vengeance. There is no chapter more grim or single-minded than the Angels of Vengeance. Their willingness to accept high casualties and stubborn refusal to retreat is well documented, and severe losses have jeopardized the chapter's future on several occasions. Even for Adeptus Astartes, they are unrelenting in their prosecution of the Emperor's foes, reserving a particular loathing for those who serve the Chaos Guards. The Consecrators. The Consecrators chapter is a mystery, arriving in a war zone without warning, and upon defeating their foe, disappearing without a word. The cryptic chapter wields all manner of ancient relics and holy patterns of armor, weapons and vehicles. It is as though the Consecrators have inherited the most revered heirlooms of the First Legion, preserving them through the ages to bear them against the foes of the Lion. Angels of Absolution. The warriors in this chapter differ from the Dark Angels in that they fear no spiritual damnation. The Angels of Absolution consider their own sins expunged by the actions of their loyalist forefathers upon Caliban. However, they still consider themselves responsible for meting out punishment upon the traitors. This means that they possess all the drive of the other unforgiven chapters, while not being weighed down by their guilt. The Blades of Vengeance. The Blades of Vengeance were the first of the Primera Space Marines created from the gene seed of Lion L. Johnson. They have thrown their full strength into the Indomitus Crusade, liberating dozens of worlds and putting dozens more they deem beyond salvation to the sword. They do this in eagerness to root out the fallen, seeing the Crusade as the means by which many of the traitors will be forced out into the open. Disciples of Caliban. The Disciples of Caliban are a fleet-based chapter that strikes with blistering speed. They were founded in Millennium 37 under circumstances that have never been disclosed. Rumors abound over their creation, and unforgiven chapters theorize that they were created for the pursuit of the renegade known as Cypher. They bear reliquaries to war, although it is unknown if the relics are merely symbolic or have some sinister purpose. The Angels of Defiance. He who endures conquers. So spoke Lionel Johnson at the height of the Great Crusade. The Primarch's legendary tenacity and his legion's ability to bear great suffering to achieve victory is embodied in the new Primaris chapter, the Angels of Defiance. Founded the Imperium's darkest hour, they have become a beacon of hope beneath the pall of despair, earning many commendations during the Indomitus Crusade. Bringers of Judgment. The Bringers of Judgment are possessed of a fanatical zeal that gives the other unforgiven chapters pause. When they encounter rebellion, they deem the entire world guilty. In their view, weakness in even one citizen indicates weakness in the entire population, and the punishment for weakness is death. The many atrocities that have been committed have drawn the ire of the Inquisition, though this has not dissuaded them. The Knights of Abhorrence. In the first 8 centuries after their founding, the Knights of Abhorrence fought solely in the Ghoul Stars, blooding their swords with the viscera of some of the most dangerous Xenos the Imperium has ever encountered. In the years since, they have patrolled the outer reaches of the Imperium, slaughtering alien horrors whilst acquiring the information on the fallen. It was they who first alerted Azrael to the events in the Somnium Stars. Prime Absolvers. Chapter Master Dagiel Khan of the Prime Absolvers, an Ultima founding chapter, first learned of the fallen from Azrael himself. A headstrong warrior, he saw no reason for his chapter brethren to feel the responsibility borne by many of the unforgiven. To Han, the fallen are no different to other traitors. Though he established an inner circle and specialized companies, he sees his chapter's mission as hunting all the Emperor's foes equally. Guardians of the Covenant. It is not known from what founding the warrior monks of the Guardians of the Covenant came, only that they too are unforgiven. Their adopted home world, Mortica 7, lies near to the western rim of the Imperium, and they are known for their monastic character. Their banners, armor, and the flanks of their vehicles are covered in spidery handwritten text, extracted from the pages of tomes held sacred by the Space Marines. The Cowled Wardens. The Cowled Wardens' base of operation lies within the Seracoid Belt, a part of the region known as the Tears of Pyrrhus. Rather than a single fortress monastery, the chapter operates out of several hollowed-out asteroids, nominally tasked with the purging of the savage Jehangir that terrorized the region. The chapter's secret purpose is the investigation of what the Unforgiven believe to be a large fallen network in the area. The Penitent Blades. The Penitent Blades hail from a world with a landmass made up of thousands of smaller landmasses, suspended kilometers in the air above acidic oceans. How this phenomenon occurs is a mystery, but it has ensured the Penitent Blades are aerial combat experts. The second company has 4 oversized squads providing gunship pilots, rather than the 2 in most other Unforgiven chapters. The Unnamed. When the senior elements of the Unnamed learned from Azrael of the Dark Angel's secrets, they felt the weight of their genetic ancestors' guilt heavily on their shoulders. They refused to take a name for their chapter, deeming themselves unworthy, and refused to take a homeworld, determined that they would never cease to ply the stars until the blight of the fallen were eradicated from the galaxy forever. Ultramarine's Successor Chapters. The White Consuls. The White Consuls value wise governance and vision as much as martial skill. In order to advance to high rank, the chapter's battle brothers must therefore act as local consulate rulers of Imperial worlds. In the wake of the Great Rift's opening, their chapter planet, Sabatine, was consumed by a warp storm, yet much of their number escaped. The White Consuls now seek a new world from which to rebuild their greatness. The Libators. The Libators are amongst the most brutal and uncompromising of the scions of Gulliman. Their name stems from their practice of letting their foes' blood, and dedicating it as an offering to the Primarch and the Emperor both. The chapter has faced censure on several occasions for its treatment of captive enemy commanders and champions, who, in the Libators' eyes, make for the worthiest offerings. The Genesis Chapter. The Genesis chapter has the proud distinction of being first of the primogenitors. Those chapters formed from the Ultramarines during the second founding. It was made from the noblest Ultramarine veterans who survived the Horus Heresy. They have always venerated Reboot Gilliman, and were one of the first chapters to seek out the Primarch upon his revival, pledging themselves to the Lord Commander. Praetors of Orpheus. The Praetors of Orpheus are famous for a disciplined approach to executing the Codex Astartes. This occasionally causes the chapter to offend their allies, but means that, on the battlefield, the Praetors operate like a perfectly calibrated engine of war. Gulliman's recent revisions of the Codex have been rapidly and rigidly adopted by the chapter, whose inflexible adherence to the word of the law continues unabated. The Aurora Chapter. The Aurora Chapter are masters of the armored assault, and their armory boasts more land raiders and predators than that of most chapters. Many of these vehicles are ancient war relics that have fought for the Aurora Chapter since the second founding. The chapter's home world of Firestorm features huge industrial macrofactorums, whose output ensures the Aurora Chapter's guns never run dry. The Silver Skulls. Highly superstitious, the Silver Skulls believe the Emperor himself guides their deeds. Though this means that they will often only take the field when the portents are favorable, it also leads them to fight with the absolute conviction of fanatics, which does not sit well with some Imperial commanders. After the opening of the Great Rift, the Silver Skulls have been amongst the most active of all chapters, fighting on many fronts. The Black Consuls. The Black Consuls are amongst the least compromising of the primogenitors, and brook no deviation whatsoever from the tenets laid down in the Codex. Their history is rich in battles won, although they were recently believed to have been annihilated by the Iron Warriors. Instead, the chapter has rebuilt itself upon its homeworld of Cyclopea, and its warriors remain stalwart guardians of the Imperium in Segmentum Pacificus. The Iron Snakes. Hailing from the frozen ocean worlds of Ithaca, the Iron Snakes are a somewhat superstitious brotherhood, whose squads are named after the founding leaders of the chapter. Over the centuries, several Iron Snake squads have accumulated particularly impressive strings of victories and glorious rolls of honours. The history of Squad Scipio, Parthius, Veii, and Thebes are the stuff of many great sagas and legends. The Nova Marines. The Nova Marines chapter have a long and storied history, and are one of the most honoured primogenitors in the Imperium. Even amongst the other firstborn chapters, the Nova Marines are noted for their consistency and unshakable faith in the Codex Astartes. The Nova Marines are an exceptionally dynamic Space Marine chapter, and they have not fought as a single force since the early years of the 37th millennium. The Hawk Lords. The Hawk Lords heavily favour the use of gunships, and so are unsurprisingly the undisputed masters of aerial combat. It is not unknown for pilots from other chapters to hone their skills while on secondment to a Hawk Lord's Talon Wing. During the Noctis Eterna, it was only the sublime efforts of the Hawk Lord's Storm Talon pilots that protected the hive world of Thessor from otherwise certain doom. Scythes of the Emperor. Once nearly obliterated in battle with Tyranids, the Scythes of the Emperor were prepared to go out fighting. However, Archmagios' call on the Ultima founding gave the chapter an unlooked-for chance to return to full strength. Unusually, the Scythes of the Emperor display their company markings through the aquila on their breastplate. Veteran status is denoted by a yellow left knee adorned with a black skull. Brazen Consuls. Hailing from the rich world of Aventinium, the Brazen Consuls recruit solely from the world's nobility. Such is these people's wealth that they commit their scions to training from birth. Thus aspirants are expert fencers and precision marksmen, as finely disciplined and learned in strategic wisdom and solitary survival as they are in the complex etiquette of the banqueting hall. The Silver Templars. The Silver Templars are weapon masters without compare. They form exceptional connections with their blades and guns, and in unusual cases, even tanks and spacecraft, in a ritual known as the Bond Martial. This allows the Silver Skulls to fight with unbelievable poise and skill. But should a warrior of this chapter ever lose their chosen weapon in battle, they would suffer terrible dishonour and gnawing grief. The Howling Griffons. Few chapters have won as much renown as quickly as the Howling Griffons. They fought with honour in the Badab War, the Vengeance Crusade, the overthrowing of the Regent of Amar, and 1,000 other campaigns vital to the Imperium. In recent years, the Howling Griffon's homeworld has come under increasingly savage assault by greenskin hordes spilling from the Caradon sector. So far, the Griffons stand firm. The Iron Hounds. Renowned for their relentlessness, the Iron Hounds are ruthless warriors who pursue their enemies until every last foe has been slain. Hailing from the Ultima Segmentum and with legends of their history dating back to the Fourth Founding, they have always been firm allies of the Ultramarines and have pledged warriors to the cause of Ultramar on countless occasions, most notably in the Plague Wars and at Damnos. The Patriarchs of Ulixis. The Patriarchs of Ulixis maintain a proud tradition of martial prowess. They especially prize the skilled and selfless defense of those they are assigned to protect. Many Patriarchs of Ulixis battle brothers have made names for themselves amid the ranks of the Death Watch, and have been seconded to the honor guards of notable Imperial worthies, or, on occasion, even the elite Victrix Guard of the Ultramarines. Unknown Foundings. Not every chapter can trace its lineage to one of the Primarchs. Over the millennia, records have been lost, destroyed, tampered with, or concealed. For some chapters, being ignorant of this part of their history is a source of immense frustration, and they take great pains to learn anything they can of their Brotherhood's origins, waging entire wars for fragments of information. Others care little. They believe that it is their task to defeat and kill the Emperor's foes, and that knowing or recovering lost parts of their history contributes little to the successful fulfillment of their purpose. Rumours often abound around these chapters regardless, as some demonstrate the traits of certain first founding chapters more than others, or even exhibit the characteristics of more than one equally. These unknown founding chapters cannot count on the brotherhood often found amongst chapters descended from the same Primarch. Their alliances are hard won, and the mystery that surrounds them sees them deemed unworthy by some. Nonetheless, they are loyal chapters of the Adeptus Astartes, and they fight furiously for the Imperium. The Mentors. The Mentors chapter has no official primogenitor, but it is known that they were created during the 26th founding. The Mentors are distrusting of others and prefer to work alone and unobserved. They are often referred to as the Mentor Legion, and some, highly unreliable and apocryphal, fragmentary records suggest the chapter has at times fielded warriors of unusual size, strength and fortitude. The Fire Lords. The Fire Lords favour a plethora of flamer weapons, preceding their fiery assaults with barrages of incendiary missiles. They hurled themselves at the charred, bewildered foe even before the flames have burnt out. Their homeworld is Mundus Pyra, a planet far out on the eastern fringe, and they are known for the strange flamecraft they use in chapter rituals, which many find reminiscent of the Salamanders. The Blood Ravens. The Blood Ravens originate from an unknown founding and of an unknown gene sire. They have operated as a solely fleet-based chapter ever since the loss of their home planet. Their own records have been expunged, and the ones kept by the Ordo Malleus are sealed. Perhaps because of this, the Blood Ravens hunger for knowledge and are practically obsessed about discovering the truth behind their creation. The Black Dragons. It is believed that the Black Dragons were created in the so-called Cursed Founding, but their gene sire is unknown. Rumours abound of a genetic mutation that can cause osseous blades to protrude from their limbs. Their name appears in battle records fighting alongside other chapters, but their presence is brief. Only the turmoil of the Great Rift has halted the latest Inquisition investigation into the Black Dragons. The Exorcists. The Exorcists are speculated to have come from the 13th founding. Their primogeniture is known only to the highest-ranking members of the Ordo Malleus, and details of the creation have been placed under inquisitorial seal. The Exorcists maintain 2 additional scout companies, for a total of 12 companies. Their esoteric training requires a high influx of recruits in order to ensure the chapter's continuation. Further information on Exorcists will follow soon. This entry is now out of date. Star Dragons. The Star Dragons practice ritual scarification, inlaying the deep cuts with electrocircuitry that causes them to glow like caged stars. There has been speculation that they are the scions of Ferrus Manus, but if this is so, they display little of their erstwhile brothers' relentless logic. Instead, the Star Dragons are guided by their furious passions, unleashing their wrath upon any who threaten the Emperor's realm. The Storm Giants. The Storm Giants have fought in several of the Imperium's greatest and most pivotal wars, not least amongst them the Third War for Armageddon. They display heightened physical strength, even for Space Marines, and there is no doubt that their gene seed may have mutated to enhance their biscopia. Several Magos Genitors have made requests to study the chapter's gene seed, but the Storm Giants have refused on each occasion. The Dragon Lords. All contact was lost with the Dragon Lords, even before the emergence of the Great Rift. By immense and costly efforts, a Torchbearer task force discovered them fighting still, having been nearly annihilated by successive Hrad invasions that reduced their fortress monastery to dust. The Dragon Lords vowed to rebuild, and have been reinforced by their Primaris brethren. They now wage war anew in the Imperium Nihilus. Tigers Argent. With their home world perilously close to the Great Rift, as well as the Pariah Nexus, the Tigers Argent are extremely hard-pressed. Their battered strike forces have repulsed incursion after incursion pouring from the Cicatrix Maledictum, and have yet to be bested. Icefang, their homeworld, has become a beacon of hope, drawing all manner of refugees and scattered Imperial forces seeking sanctuary. The Carcharodons. Mysterious prowlers of the outer dark, the Kakaradons are ever on the move, seeking out the Emperor's foes from beyond the Imperium's borders. Few have ever fought alongside them. Those who have report their unsettling savagery. Their preference for rapid strikes, using stealth or extreme speed, and their deadly skill in close combat actions, using a range of bayonets, blades, chained weapons, and point-blank weapons fire. The White Templars. Hailing from the world of Sanctum, the White Templars are stoic and relentless in their prosecution of the foe. Though for a time it was thought that they were Imperial Fists successors, recent discoveries by Administratum Generatoriologica have thrown substantial doubt upon this claim. The White Templars have been shaken by this revelation and have launched a star-spanning crusade to discover the truth. The Brazen Skulls. Though the Brazen Skulls are known to have been destroyed during the Sabbat World's Crusade, their name, colours and heraldry were reinstated during the Ultima founding, and thus all of their number are Primaris Space Marines. The Brazen Skulls are determined to live up to the honour of their forebears, and have swiftly earned a reputation for heroism, tenacity, and all-consuming hatred for the forces of chaos. The Red Scorpions. The fleet-based crusaders of the Red Scorpions believe in the Emperor's divinity without question, and are staunch followers of the Codex Astartes, which they see as holy writ. Fanatical in their pursuit of purity, their gene seed sanctity is essential to their core belief. As a result, they have more apothecarians than most chapters, and the master of the apothecarian is second in command of the whole chapter. The Minotaurs. The Minotaur's history beyond 1,000 years ago has been deliberately concealed by edicts that even inquisitors cannot circumvent with ease. In battle, they are possessed of a berserk fury, and are willing to sustain heavy losses to ensure victory. How they are able to maintain the rapid influx of aspirants and war machinery to replace those lost is another mystery. More than one Imperial agent has been found dead while researching such subjects. End quote. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I hope you have enjoyed this brief introduction to Successor chapters of the Adeptus Astartes. If so, then please consider liking and subscribing. If you do, then hit the notifications button, as I would not want you to miss out. If you see the worth in what we are doing, then do also consider joining our Patreon, or giving the video a share if that is beyond your present scope. It would be a great boon. Now, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.